community of members, coaches, and professionals working as a team of like-minded individuals in constant pursuit, connecting this exclusive group with the tools and resources they require to live a high-performance lifestyle, conquering what life has thrown at them. We are Living the Fit Life. Welcome to the Living the Fit Life podcast, season 2. This is episode 36, launching into season 2. Super excited. I'm your host, Chad Mueller, and I'm joined by Coach ADJ. What's up, Adam? How's it going, buddy?
I'm good. Recovering from a big race this weekend, so my body's a little beat up and resting up, but it's not about me today.
No. You still look good. You look fine. You don't look so damaged. But yeah, we have an awesome guest today to kick off season 2. Really excited to sit down and chat with one of the fittest teenagers out there, Emma Lawson. Hey, Emma, how's it going today?
I'm good, thank you. How are you? Pretty
good. Thanks for joining. The community's been super excited to hear about your journey. Obviously a local CrossFitter to KW, and so it's super excited having you sort of in the neighborhood. And yeah, first off, congratulations on your games experience this year. I guess it's been like just over like a month ago, I guess the games were.
Yeah.
How did you find this year's games? I know this is probably like one of the first competitions you had, but how was it for you this year?
This year, the games, I thought it was just an amazing experience. Just being back in that atmosphere, and having an in-person competition again, because I hadn't had one in like about 2 years. So it was really great to get back to that whole environment.
Yeah, that's awesome. And so the last time you were at the games would have been 2 years ago, and you would have been competing in the 14 to 15 division?
Yeah, I was. And this year too, it was just so, I just felt like me as an athlete, I just felt so much more like experienced, and going into this year's, I just felt super prepared. So definitely a great time.
Awesome. Yeah, I mean, you looked pretty poised when I was watching some of the workouts. You looked pretty, just like it was like in your element kind of thing. Even though like you said, like you haven't been in an in-person competition. Like, how nervous were you sort of getting there day one, like, and getting like the first event going?
It was a mixture of like being super excited and super nervous, because like definitely the competition floor is where I love to be, but not practicing being in that environment for so long was definitely super nerve-wracking for me, especially with it being the biggest competition of the whole year for me.
Mm-hmm.
I do remember before the first event, I love running, so I was super excited for that event. But the second event with the legless rope climbs and deadlifts, I wasn't sure how I would do in that workout, just knowing like with the semifinals and quarterfinals, there was a lot of legless rope climbs. I definitely struggled with them, but I'd been working on them a lot, so I wasn't really sure how that workout was going to go. But I do remember like just getting out on the field and waiting for them to start the workout. I had never felt that nervous before. I was like, I'm not even joking, I was shaking. I've never felt that before, so it was pretty crazy.
That's so cool to hear, because you, like Chad said earlier, you look so confident, calm, composed all the time.
Mm-hmm.
I think the nerves, like I think all athletes will say this, but because you had been there before and in the moment, that probably adds to the nervousness a little bit, because you know what's in store.
Of course.
So it's almost like a sense of preparation combined with nerves, and that makes you feel even more nervous, more excited. But
oh, definitely, yeah, because a couple of photographers, and even when they were doing the live stream for that event, they like showed me, and I had several people say to me like, wow, you had like a really good game face there. And I was like, what you didn't know is I was shaking with nerve. Yeah.
Well, I mean, that's amazing. That's amazing that one, you can have that feeling and still sort of try to find some sort of composure, right? Because like at the end of the day, you're just waiting for time to pass, and then all of a sudden it just happens, and you, like, I'm assuming after the first round in that event, you were just cruising, right? That was just your element. You were just fine.
Yeah, it's always until the 3, 2, 1. Once they say go, you're fine.
Yeah, amazing.
Yeah,
that's amazing. And so you have one more year left in the teenage division, correct?
I do, yes. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Obviously, unless you, as you did this year, you were very close to stepping up into the next division, the elite division. So you still have that opportunity, which is cool.
Yeah. So we'll see. I mean, always, like, even just competing in the teenage division, the competition is still amazing. So it's not like you're missing out one way or another. So
yeah. And so, like, I have to ask like one of the obvious questions, like, do you still sort of feel that sort of celebrity factor with, like, when you're in the same, I'm assuming you're in getting closer to being in the same room as some of the elites. I know that there was a picture I saw with you and Sarah, Sigmund's daughter. Like, are you starting to feel like this celebrity factor, like, oh my God, like this person is, I'm very close to be competing with these people. Now I'm in the same room with these people, and I've been looking forward to meeting these people. Like, what does that feel like right now?
Oh, I totally, like, when I got to meet Sarah, I was so starstruck. It wasn't even funny. I actually have a funny story about that. So I really love Sarah. I really look up to her. I think she's an amazing athlete, but definitely an amazing person too. So when I was meeting her for the first time there, I guess she thought that I lived in the UK, or something. So he said, "Whereabouts in the UK do you live?" And I looked at my dad like I completely forgot where I lived, and I was like, I was just so starstruck. It's so funny. But yeah, I think it's crazy that, like, even when I did the quarterfinals and semifinals, like, even just seeing my name on the leaderboard with them, it's just, I thought that was so crazy. I just never would have thought that I would be where I am today, especially at 16.
Do you have any sort of idea of why this year was like that? Like yourself, and there was obviously Mal O'Brien and Emma Carey and even Olivia. Like, there was a lot of teenagers sort of pushing those elite levels. Like, what do you have any idea, like, why you felt that was happening this year out of other years maybe?
I don't know. I've definitely, I mean, over the years, the teenagers have definitely been just improving that much more every year. I don't know. I think once you get into the 16, 17 age division, and that, like, idea is there that, you can see yourself on the leaderboard with the elites, because we have all the same workouts, like, leading up to it, and, like, the same weights, like, in the open. So I'm not sure. I think it's just been over the years, the teenagers just evolving and getting better. And I guess just this year was the year that they started catching up to the elites.
Yeah, I feel like you girls especially have been pushing each other for the past 3 or 4 years. So, obviously you always have each other in your mind when you're training and behind the scenes. So I feel like you're right. It was kind of just waiting for the perfect timing.
Yeah.
And COVID with no real in-person competitions. And when the open hit, and man, were you 15th in the world at the end of the open, and the other girls were right there with you. Like, that was incredible.
Yeah, I think COVID really played a huge role into this as well. I mean, I'm not sure what the other girls' like school schedules are like, but for me, like, I had so much more time on my hands to focus on, like, everything with my training. And I wasn't having to go to bed super late and getting up super early because I just had online school and I could do it whenever I needed to throughout the day. So that was super convenient for me in my training.
Interesting. Very cool.
Yeah, I love how you say that, because that was my sort of conclusion to this whole thing. And we did talk about this with Josh, your coach, on our podcast before too. And that's what, like, I think the fact that COVID happened and the teenagers, not saying that they're less busy than sort of an adult, but like if you look at Sarah, for an example, like she's got sponsorship deals, she's got a lot of things going on in her life, plus training, versus a teenager might be able to prioritize their training a little bit higher. And I think it's sort of magic in a bottle that there's a group of teenagers that have really kind of just struck at the same time, which is super awesome, right? Like this could be like a once in a generational thing to see. And it might be also that, right, like you're playing off each other's sort of area too. Like you see Haley a few years ago make it, and it's like, okay, then maybe we have a chance too. And then it's like you see Mel, or you're competing with Emma or Olivia, like, you know, like you kind of just carry the momentum as a group almost, even though you're not training with that person directly. But it's super cool to see. It was an amazing sort of time for CrossFit for sure.
Yeah, definitely.
I did want to ask about sort of, we talked to Josh in a podcast a while, I forget which podcast it was. And I wanted to ask you sort of the idea, like, so there's a lot of CrossFit athletes that sort of decide to sort of coach themselves or or create their own programming, or they sort of buy into sort of a training camp programming. Sort of what made you consider having a coach in this sort of area?
Well, when I first started, I honestly didn't know a thing about like competing in CrossFit. Everything was really new to me. So, I mean, at the time that was all I knew, but I wouldn't change anything about it. I love having Josh, being super close to me too. And like when I'm in the gym, he can like obviously help coach me too. And I love it, as well when he's like there with me for like online competitions or other competitions as well. So I think and not only is Josh like my coach, but he's also like more than that to us. Like he's part of our friend and family group. So I think it's great to have that really good relationship with my coach too, because he knows me not only as an athlete, but as a person as well. Which makes, like our team just that much stronger.
Totally.
Amazing.
And you were in competitive dance, and so obviously you had a coach then as well. Because I'm trying to like, I think that's one of the things that like we lose as we get older, like the idea of having a coach. And I think it's really important for young kids. I mean, I think when you're younger, you don't appreciate the coaches in your life as much. And I think unless like a sport like CrossFit is really showing that there is a lot of appreciation for coaches, because it's very one-on-one. Like when you have a hockey coach or something, that they can be mentors and you remember them, but then you sort of get out of those sports and all of a sudden you're just left to do your own thing, and you kind of forget that a coach was there and helping you. And I think more adults would benefit from having coaches along the way. So it's really cool to see how like you've had a coach for such a young age. And it's interesting too, like you've had a coach and your coach was new and you were new to the sport. Like how is it, have you sort of enjoyed the idea of like growing with your coach? Like Josh is growing at the same time you're growing into what his profession is and your profession as well.
Oh, definitely. Yeah. We are just like constantly learning from each other as well. So
that's awesome.
I think it's been amazing.
That's awesome. And when did you start CrossFit? At what age?
Well, I started doing CrossFit Kids when I was 7, just like, I think like once a week in the summers. But that was it. And then I started training with Josh, the summer of 2018.
And when you were doing CrossFit Kids, did you enjoy CrossFit?
No, I did not. I used to, I didn't like it because it was I always thought it was too early in the morning, and I never felt like being active at that time in the morning. So, yeah, I used to get dragged there. I used to pretend to like sleep in so that I'd be late and then we didn't have to go. But that would never happen. So my parents wouldn't let that happen. But yeah, I didn't enjoy it as much. And then I got to an age where I was allowed to start doing the adult classes. And then that's when I started to really enjoy it. Just it was more of a challenge, and I just thought, like in the CrossFit Kids, it was a great class. They did a great job with it, but it was, I just felt like in the adult class it was yeah, just a better challenge, and it was also new, so I was doing new skills and learning new things, so that was really cool too.
Don't lie, you were just beating all the other kids.
No, it was
And some of the adults.
Needed a little competition. That's what it was.
well,
I love it.
yeah, sorry, go.
No, go ahead. I was gonna say, like, so in LP, and I think a lot of the CrossFit gyms, right? We have a lot of members with kids, and obviously, like a lot of couples go to the gym, and kids, and especially now with COVID, right? Like when people are working at home, like my kids see me working out all the time, and so was your parents sort of at the CrossFit gym? They got you in the CrossFit Kids, and did you see them doing CrossFit, and that was something that you sort of latched onto as you were sort of going through this journey of CrossFit Kids?
Yeah, definitely. So my parents, they both did the CrossFit classes, and that's how I got into it. And I think the more I'd watch them, the more I would like become more interested in what they were doing and wanting to learn the movements and wanting to, just do more workouts and just stuff like that.
Cool. And are both your parents sort of previous athletes? Did they have an athletic background as well?
Yeah, they did lots of sports growing up too. Cool. So yeah.
Cool.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, I know Adam, like you've started sort of an LP sort of kids sort of class, which is still happening right now, right? During, like, we have it back up and running during COVID, sort of.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And like Emma said, I don't think CrossFit Kids was her only sport she was involved in. And that's like the same for us at LP. It's kind of just a cool supplement to other sports that the kids have, but such an important one that can be helpful, right, Emma?
Oh yeah, I think having the CrossFit Kids I think it's just an awesome opportunity for kids as well, just to, I don't know, not only is it a fun time, but like you're always wanting to work hard because everyone else around you is too. So I just think it's a great environment for kids to be in as well.
Mm-hmm. And so you started at the age of 7, didn't really like it, and then when did you go to like an adult class? Did you say you were 12?
Yeah, I was about that.
Okay.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And then so then around 12, that's when Josh also started sort of getting involved, or was it a little bit later?
Yeah, I believe I was 13 when I started with Josh. So
cool. Yeah. Awesome. Yeah, because I think the moral of the story is, like, and I see this too, like at the age of 7, you kids don't have to love it to do it for a long time. I mean, and it's actually probably surprising if they do love it. You know what I mean? Like it's probably okay if they don't love it or they don't like it, and it becomes sort of a chore. Like, do you remember feeling like there was a time when it just shifted, like, and it just became like, okay, I'm going to do the adult class and this is kind of cool, and now I want to do this all the time? Like,
yeah, I think it was more when I started doing the adult classes and, like I said, getting more exposure to more movements and stuff and more skills, and I found myself like picking up on things easier. Just like doing more stuff, I was able to like move well and stuff.
Mhm.
And I did the open one year when I was not old enough to do it. And so that year, I just felt like how quickly my skills and conditioning and stuff was developing. That's kind of when it hit me like, oh, like I really like this, and I could maybe see myself going somewhere with this. So
Cool.
yeah.
That's cool. And so, and I wanted to ask you, how do you sort of now with the, obviously the past few years, like how do you manage sort of being a teenager with this sort of lifestyle? So like, obviously you have high school friends, family, and then obviously you have a lot of goals in CrossFit. How do you balance this whole thing as a
Um,
teenager?
it's definitely very challenging. Trying to find time to, um, like, especially when school's happening, I'm busy with school, I'm busy with training. And of course, like, I like to have a life as well outside of the gym. That's really important to me. So, I mean, doing this sport and being super competitive with it, you obviously have to make a lot of sacrifices that I'm definitely willing to make. But, sometimes as well, like, um, I'll have to I will from time to time, like, depending on when in the season it is, like, I definitely do make time to do other things as well. So, like, whether that be like going out with my friends or, maybe just staying up a little later or something like that. I definitely do like to make time for all that. But yeah, it's definitely about managing my time. So I've definitely had to make sure that I'm doing a good job at that. I would, when I was in school, I would try to, um, like on my lunch breaks and stuff, I'd go to the library and get as much of my school or homework done as I could so that I'd have a little bit more time after school. So yeah.
That's what we thought. We thought, for a young girl to be so successful at what she does, she must be very regimented and organized and follow a pretty strict routine. Did you,
Mm-hmm.
especially like you said, certain times of the year when, you're leading up to the open and you're in the quarters and semis and leading up to the games.
Mm-hmm.
What does your daily schedule looks like? Do you go to bed early? Do you get up early? What
Um,
yeah.
so with when I was in school, every morning I usually have like a morning conditioning thing. So I'd have to get up at like 4:50 or 5 and do my conditioning thing before school. And then I'd go to school, um, and then come home and I'd go straight. I'd maybe do a little bit more homework and then go straight to the gym and then come home, finish whatever homework I needed, and then go to bed. Before I wouldn't get to bed that early. I'd honestly probably get to bed around like between 10:30 and 11, and then be waking up early again. So that wasn't, I definitely found myself burning out a lot easier when I was in school. So definitely with this COVID time, it's made me realize like I was never open to potential homeschool before. Um, but I mean, not that I have to go fully like homeschooled or online, but I think moving forward, if I had the opportunity to take some courses online just to give me that extra bit of time of maybe not having to wake up as early or it just saves on like the time of traveling to school and getting ready for school and packing all my stuff. So that would be really convenient as well.
Yeah, that makes so much sense.
Mm-hmm.
There's only so many hours in the day, and to fit in everything, and still get your sleep and recovery, which is obviously super important to you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Kind of
definitely.
another little sacrifice you would have to make. Um, Another, interesting question for, a 16-year-old boy or girl. the mental toughness you have as an athlete,
Mm-hmm.
your ability to, rise to the occasion on the competition floor. What do you think has been your key to success to developing that over the years? Anything in particular?
I think for me, it's really just been like keeping my goal in mind. I can certainly say, like as for everyone, I think like when you see on social media too, you're like, wow, like they just did that super hard workout and they look fine after it or something like that. And, it's always like behind closed doors, like in competition, like you really try to stay composed and everything, but there are so many times in training where I just like break down and cry. And, those are the things that you don't really see. But keeping that goal in mind really helped me. I put, when I was like training to go to the games for the first time, I put, like I printed off the logo of the games and all the competitions I wanted to, and I put it on the whiteboard in my garage. So anytime I was training and I started to feel like, oh, I can't do this anymore, I just look up at it and it just remind me, this is why I'm doing this. I wanna get there one day. That's my goal. So just having those little reminders and just keeping the end goal in mind is a huge motivator for me.
Amazing. Seems so simple, and we know how tough it is,
Uh-huh.
but so important for young athletes and athletes of all ages to have
Definitely.
those reminders constantly.
Mm-hmm.
And for you, do you actively set new goals every year?
I do, yes. Yeah, every year after the games, I sit down with Josh, or at the end of the season, I sit down with Josh and we talk about what all my goals will be for the next coming year.
Cool. And what is, you were just mentioning the end goal, like what is the end goal for you?
Well, it does vary every year, changes every year, but this year I think it'd be really cool if I could qualify as an elite individual. So that's the goal for this year.
Incredible.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. That's pretty cool. It's pretty cool.
I'm sure it's already on the whiteboard.
Of course.
Amazing. And who like you're saying, like with your routine and like, what's it like for your sort of like your supporting cast, right? The community around you, like
oh yeah,
friends, family, like, are they like, Emma, like stop training 3 hours a day, let's just go do this? Like how is it having that sort of support system around you? And like, are they fairly, I'm going to assume that they're very supportive.
oh yeah.
Is it ever a situation where it's like, okay, Emma, like really, like I think you're done today, let's go do something else?
No, all my family and my friends, they're all like super, super supportive. So I'm super lucky to have that. My friends are always like, for the games, they were, even before it was happening, they were like, how can we watch? Tell us how we can watch. And, they're all just super supportive that way. They're all athletes themselves too. So they're competitive as well. So obviously they know, they understand all the time and I need to dedicate to this. So yeah, I couldn't ask for a better support system. So
Cool.
yeah,
That makes sense. I mean, you circle yourself with like athletic people,
of course.
and people. Yeah, that's pretty awesome.
Mm-hmm.
And did you always dream of becoming sort of a pro athlete?
No, I never really. It's funny, when I danced, I enjoyed it, but I didn't love it. I just did it because I didn't know what else to do. It's funny. People say I'm the most unathletic person. Like I can work out, but if you tell me to play like basketball or like football or any other sport, I like have no coordination to do it whatsoever. So I don't know why it works that way, but it's funny. So yeah, I never saw myself, like when I danced, I wasn't good at it by any means. So I never really saw myself going anywhere with it. And at the time I didn't know about CrossFit. So no, I would have never suspected this.
So how has life changed for you then? Because like in the past year or so, you've kind of risen to this idea of stardom. Like you're knocking on the elite's door, and we know that the elite's sort of, there is a celebrity factor with that. And now you have sort of sponsorships, and you're getting to that place. Like how does that feel? Like how awesome is that? But like, how has it changed for you? Like, do you realize it, or you're still just like living it in the moment?
I think I'm still just living in the moment. It's a pretty surreal thought, and it honestly hasn't really sunken into me, or sunken in at all. As yeah, it all just doesn't seem real to me. I just think in my head like, oh, I work out, I compete, and yeah, there's just the factor of, even like, I'm still super starstruck by all of them. So to think that I'm soon going to be there is just like crazy to me.
Yeah, you seem to just do such a great job of getting up, following the plan, getting the work done, and kind of hitting repeat every day, every season, going after those new goals. It's amazing.
Yeah, totally.
Okay.
I did want to talk to you about sort of the fitness side of things. So like, how has, like, I guess one of the questions is, do you does Coach Josh do all the programming for you, or do you also kind of get in there, kind of tinker around and figure out what you're going to be doing for the next little bit?
No, I honestly just go with the flow with whatever
Nice.
Josh tells me to do. I completely trust him, and I know that he wants the best for me, and he's super good at what he does. So yeah.
Cool. And how has sort of training changed for you, like as you've gotten older and stronger? Like during COVID, I know you posted some stuff on Instagram, some massive lifts. It seemed like you got really strong, like all of a sudden. Like how is sort of, have you noticed sort of a change in training at a certain age, like from the age of 12 to now 16?
Definitely. Yeah. This, like, the elite, which is like the elite division, which is the end goal. It's like obviously you dedicate a lot of time as a teenager, but you have to dedicate that much more time, like when you're going for an elite. So it's been a lot more like volume, a lot more focus on like my nutrition and my sleep and recovery, and all those things as well is super important when you're trying to be stay healthy and avoid injuries, because when you're training that much and doing that much volume, you need to make sure you're focusing on those things as well.
Yeah, what does a typical, I know right now you're still recovering from the games, and maybe just thinking about when do you start your new plan, and what's a typical day going to look like going into September?
So the first week of school, actually, so that's right after Labor Day weekend, that's when I'm gonna start training again.
Awesome.
So yeah, typical day, I will again wake up early before school, do my morning conditioning. We're done school super early this year. I think we're done at like 1:45, which is
awesome.
Great. So yeah, we only have 2 classes, which is a little different, but yeah, we're done super early. And then, yeah, I'll go to the gym again then after school. Like I said before, I wasn't really focusing on like my recovery stuff, but I've definitely noticed a huge difference in my training and the way my body feels when I do. So definitely I need to make time for that. And it's not like I need to spend like an hour on it. It's just, a little bit every day. I work with, primal mobility, so I'm given lots of routines there to help me with training as well.
Yeah, that's amazing. It seems like you maybe spend an hour in the morning on your conditioning, and then you're spending a couple hours in the afternoon after school on your strength and gymnastics and all of the other work. How much like talking about the mobility and recovery piece, how much time would you spend later in the evening on that each day or each week?
Like now?
Well, yeah, I mean, I guess maybe thinking more back to when your training was at a higher volume, but I guess your answer is probably right. Like it depends on the time of the year.
Yeah, I would try to about 4 times a week. I'd spend about like 30 to 40 minutes each, or yeah, 4 days, just like
Cool.
really working on that stuff.
Cool. That makes so much sense. I think young athletes, especially like you said, before, you don't know how good your body could feel or is supposed to feel before you really do dedicate the time to the mobility and recovery.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, it's crazy how much of an impact it has in a good way.
But what's your go-to recovery tool?
Ooh, well, I actually really love using the toe spacers. I don't know if you've seen it on my Instagram before, but
I have seen it, yes.
yeah, I just it's crazy. I never I don't know, I never really thought about my feet or anything like that, but I started using them and I've actually noticed a huge difference like with my feet. My feet used to get sore all the time. I think it was just from like, you know, wearing tight shoes and whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And like if I actually before when I would do like a ton of double unders, the first thing that would start to like slow me down would be my feet would start cramping. So yeah, I've definitely been using those recovery products and yeah, I've noticed a huge difference. I don't get that cramping in my feet anymore.
Yeah, very cool. I think, not to get too into it, but the feet are a muscle as well, or many muscles.
Yeah.
And I'm excited to see how that translates over to all of your lifting, you know, your balance, your strength, stability.
Oh, definitely. Yeah.
I can see it being an amazing tool. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Adam, have you used them before?
I haven't used the spacers in general, but definitely doing a lot more work on strengthening my feet and just creating that like strong base of support, whether it's
Is that for the running, like the increase of volume?
yeah, like both sports. I'm like Emma too, where like double unders, box jumps, burpees, even like barbell cycling, like
Oh, yeah.
in it, when you get deep into a workout, sometimes that's like the worst part is your feet are cramping up or like burning.
Yeah.
Because all the stabilizers are working. So it's such an important component that, you know, I don't think any of us have thought about too much.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I'm curious to see the sort of information coming out about that, because I think it's still a fairly new tool, and it would be curious to see if it's sort of one of those recovery tools for the general population, or is it sort of for an elite level athlete trying to get that extra 1% better. I've used, like I've put them on, and I'm a baby. Like it's like 15 seconds, 20 seconds. I'm like, it does not feel good.
Yeah.
It stretches my feet.
Yeah.
It's terrible.
Yeah, I think we all end up with such flat feet and like weak arches over time that rightfully so. It's like, you know, when you get braces or you wear a retainer, like your body is shifted and just kind of adapted to what it's used to. But really, like, we need to get our feet back to when we were kids running around outside in bare feet, and your feet were strong and durable and cool. What is primal mobility? Do they give you like a plan? Would it be similar if I compared it to like GoWOD or ROMWOD? What do they do?
Well, I have like a one-on-one coach for that, which is great for me too. So I let him know like if I'm having soreness anywhere, and he will give me like program specific, not only just stretches, but like mobility stuff too, that'll strengthen, you know, the smaller muscles. They're also about preventing like injury, which was a huge point as to why I also join with them. Yeah, just all the routines, not only good for, like, there is obviously stretching, but a lot of it is focused on just strengthening those little muscles and helping to overall avoid any injury.
Yeah, that's amazing. Everyone thinks mobility is just stretching, but it's a lot of activation and targeting those muscle imbalances and smaller muscle groups.
Of course, yeah.
So cool that they include that into their plans.
Yeah, definitely. I've really enjoyed working with them.
I think it's really cool that at such a young age, like you've put so much focus on recovery. I know that in the CrossFit world, recovery sort of has become sort of second nature for a lot of things, but I think like me and Adam probably would agree, like we come from a different generation where recovery was sort of never thought of, or at the very least an afterthought. So I think it's very cool that you're talking about recovery, and the sport of CrossFit talking about recovery. Like, what's one thing, like if there's a bunch of young listeners, like what would you tell them to kind of get them to understand that recovery is an important sort of area of focus, just like training?
What I always think about it is, like I want to be a CrossFit athlete for as long as I can. And so doing everything I can, all the little things, to help my body, like, be able to recover and avoid any injury. All of those things to focus on. They're just so important if you want to be like an athlete for a while. So I think that's really important, especially being at a young age. Just because you don't want it to, like, injuries or sorenesses or anything, you don't want that to catch up to you when you're still in your prime. So yeah.
That's great. That's awesome. I did want to ask another question about your training. Did you, maybe this hasn't happened yet, maybe in like a year or 2 years from now, we come back and talk to you, but did you notice, was there a time and place where you sort of noticed there was a increase in the volume of training? Like you kind of look back and like, it's like, holy shit, this past week I've done so much more training than I've ever done before. And it's like, what just happened? Like, did I just all of a sudden just double my training? Like, was there a point in time that you noticed this yet, or?
Yeah, definitely. When I was training for semifinals,
just this past year.
Yeah.
Okay.
The volume was insane. So yeah, it was a lot, but obviously it paid off. So
there's so many components in CrossFit, and you know, you have Emma talked about her aerobic base work that she gets up and does in the morning, and then there's the strength work and the ollie lifting and the gymnastics and the metcons, and it's like there is so much to do, especially leading up to those key points in the season.
Of course.
Her body, it's you know, Coach Josh would have had her kind of slowly ramping up for that peak as she hit that time, especially probably getting ready for the semis, which is an insane amount of volume in one weekend, and then the games, which is an insane amount of volume over a week. So
yeah,
it makes so much sense.
Yeah. And I was also really trying to, or Josh and I were trying to work on too. Usually I'd find myself like at the end of a bigger competition. So in 2019 at the games, I'd usually start off really strong and then slowly die off towards the end of the competition and just be really, really trying to hang on to my spot. So I've definitely been trying to, like, leading up to that, I was really trying to work on that. So for one of the weeks, like leading into semifinals, usually I train 6 days a week, but Thursdays are like my active recovery days. But one of the weeks I went like training super hard for 5 days straight. So that was really just trying to, you know, practice that long weekend or long week, lots of volume, and just trying to, it's mainly, you know, that mental toughness part. So really training that part of things. So that definitely helped me a lot too, because the semifinal workouts were very challenging. So I'm glad that I definitely felt super prepared. So
yeah, amazing. Always a purpose. It wasn't just like, you know, Josh was adding that work just for the sake of doing more work. It was,
of course, there's also a method to his madness.
Absolutely. The man
Yeah.
method.
Oh yeah.
Amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. And obviously we can't have you on a podcast without talking about nutrition. I guess my first question is, like, before we get into sort of how your nutrition is nowadays, like growing up, like what was nutrition like as a family? Like, did you learn a lot from just being around your family and what they ate, or do you feel like this sport has made you eat the way you probably eat?
I definitely think this sport has definitely had a huge part as to what I eat and stuff today. Because before, my family has always eaten very, very well, but I was the one kid in my family that I had a huge sweet tooth. So like every night after dinner, what's for dessert tonight? My parents are like, you can't have dessert every night. Because I'd also eat dessert in the day, and I was always into that stuff. But after like starting, you know, training competitively in the sport, nobody ever forced me to eat well, or nobody forced me to, or told me not to eat certain foods. It was all like my decision. Like I knew that if I wanted to be good at the sport, I also needed to make sure that I had good nutrition. So that was my decision there, to start to focus on eating well, and a little bit more clean. So yeah.
What does sort of a day of eating look like for you?
Well, I eat a lot of food.
I bet.
Yeah, I work with Mike at like the N2 Performance, so he's definitely helped me learn a lot. But yeah, he's always telling me that I have a crazy fast metabolism because, well, right now I'm eating the same macros that I ate leading up to the games, and I'm barely training, but I'm still at the same weight. So I'm not really sure how that's happening, but I eat lots and lots of carbs, and then obviously lots of protein and fat as well. But I'm about 3,600 calories a day. So yeah, and it's not always about, especially when you're training for like performance and with the volume that I would be, obviously not this month, but usually when I would be training, obviously you want to be eating good foods, but you can't eat super clean when you're hitting macros that are that high. So yeah, it's just definitely about just getting in all the food that you can, and whatever that may be. So as long as it fits the macros, it's good.
How many meals a day are you eating?
Meals be like 3 or 4, and then lots of snacky things.
Okay.
Yeah.
That makes sense. As a young athlete, like if you looked back on, you know, even a couple of years ago or back to when you were 10, 11, 12 years old, what would you say is like the most important thing for a young athlete to think about for nutrition?
Oh, I think it's all about like eating enough. Like I think sometimes people are so consumed in the thought of, oh, like if I want to look lean, I can't eat this much. But for myself, like I'm eating more than I ever have, but I'm also feeling the most lean that I have ever been. So I think it's about like just educating yourself on, you know, proper nutrition and things like that. and not restricting yourself when you're hungry.
Yeah, amazing. I think, kids, and I wouldn't call you a kid at all anymore, but you're just so active in general, right? And you're burning your body, like you finding out right now, you're just being active. You're not even really training specifically right now. Mm-hmm. And your body's still consuming those 3,600 calories a day, plus or minus. Mm-hmm. Like, it's incredible to see when you give your body the fuel it needs, what it will do with it. Like you said, you're getting leaner or staying just as lean when you're just, staying active. So it'll be amazing to see what happens as you go into your season.
Yeah, definitely.
So when did you start really focusing on like eating for performance? Like was it aligned with sort of when you got Coach Josh and you guys started uptaking training, or did it come sort of a little bit after, you were training a lot and you found your body just needed that nutrition?
So I really started to dial in that nutrition when I did start training with Josh.
Okay.
We had briefly talked about it, just that I'm going to have to be eating lots and, stuff like that. But that's when I really started to focus on that good nutrition as well.
Yeah, I think it's so cool that like everything comes back to like your goal. Like you mentioned, like you did recovery because you knew that you, in the sport, to be successful and to be durable, you needed to do recovery. And now it's like you started training and right away you included nutrition because you knew that came as a piece, right? Because oftentimes we see the journey of like going to the gym and trying to be fit and then trying to create a routine of fitness. And then the second thing is shortly after is nutrition, but it's really hard to capture all three at the same time because there's like a lot of older people or people in general, they go all in, right? Like I need to go training 7 days a week. I need to get super clean chicken, broccoli, rice meals every single day. And then I need to get a foam roller and a massage gun. And all of a sudden 3 months later, they're so burnt out because they just went all in so fast. So it's really cool that you've been so aware of it and you've tied it all to like your end goal, which I think is really, really unique in such a young age.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, it's definitely just been, a lot of learning over the years too. So I didn't.
Well, it's a lot of learning, a lot of short years at a young age. So good for you.
Well, that's incredible. I think we talk about goals and learning and going back to that as adults a lot, and we have to keep that growth mindset. But to hear how important it is as a kid too, the learning doesn't stop outside the classroom per se. It just keeps going, right?
Of course, yeah.
That's so cool.
If you want to excel at your sport and crush your big goals.
Yeah.
That's cool. That's cool. Yeah, this has been amazing, Emma. I guess maybe last question, like what would you say to sort of a younger athlete sort of getting their toes wet with maybe a sport that they are really passionate about, and they want to get to the next level at such a young age? Like, what would you sort of tell them, or any sort of tips of success or sort of anything? Like, what should they sort of focus on? Or I know this is a tough question, but curious what you would say to that.
Well, like I said before, I just go back to just keeping the end goal in mind and, always like just working hard and staying dedicated. And, when you have that kind of, like mindset and stuff, you will see it all paying off. So you need to trust the process.
Oh, I like it.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for joining us, Emma. I really appreciate it.
Thanks so much for having me.
Congratulations again. I'm really looking forward to following your success and hopefully get you at LP throwing down.
Yeah.
It'll be pretty fun.
Yeah. Thanks again.
Thanks, Emma. Great to chat.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks for listening. Talk to you next time.